Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Donnie here, and I'm back with another installment of my classic TV Spotlight series. So, this video comes via request on from my Facebook page, as that where I posted my last video. So, I want to say thank you to my friend Corey for recommending this show for me. I'm gonna be talking about a TV show. It's uh, really the definition of a classic. It is actually 70 years old. It debuted 70 years ago this year, and it's is considered one of the all-time greatest sitcoms, one of the most influential shows of all time. It's a little show called I Love Lucy. Now, I Love Lucy, it aired for 6 seasons on CBS from 1951 to 57. It was, very much acclaimed in its time. It won numerous Emmy awards, and um, and still to this day is very acclaimed. It starred the great Lucille Ball, who is just a comedic genius, and she's like on the, you know, one of the most influential women in comedy, and um, just most influential comedians ever. Period. She's on the Mount Rushmore of comedy, and just was, uh, you know, had this show that was just groundbreaking and really set the standard for years to come. If you saw, I had a video earlier about the show Batgirl, and how much of a forerunner that was, and how influential that was. But you know, I Love Lucy kind of set the standard before that for Batgirl and Mary Tyler Moore and all these other shows. So you know, and to this day, you can still kind of see the um, remnants of I Love Lucy on shows in this day and age. Uh, so I'll talk about the show in general. The basic premise of the show, it involves Lucille Ball. She plays Lucy Ricardo. She's a housewife, and her husband is Ricky Ricardo, who's a big band leader and singer, and he's played by Desi Arnaz, who's actually who I actually happen to share a birthday with, March 2nd. So it's kind of cool. It's him and I, along with John Bon Jovi and Dr. Seuss. That's a very interesting Mount Rushmore in its own right. So but I digress. Um, and initially, they live in a New York City apartment, and they are joined by their friends, an older couple named Fred and Ethel Mertz. They are played by William Frawley and Vivian Vance. And a lot of the humor of the show, kind of derives from Lucy's efforts to get into stardom and show business. She wants she wants to hit it big, and she sees her husband as who's in the show business world as a band leader. Uh, she sees him as his in, and tries is constantly hitting him up to letting her perform at his show, and he usually always objects to it, and so she makes all these different efforts to try to make it big, and they usually always end up failing. Um, Physical comedy uh, is a great part of this show. Lucille Ball is one of the all-time greatest physical comedians. She had no problems making a fool of herself, acting like a goofball, and just doing anything for a laugh. And it's one of the things that can still stand up to this day. Like this, there's certain parts of a certain scenes, whatever, that are still just as funny as they were back in the 1950s. And probably the most famous scene in the history of the show is the one with where her and Ethel are working in the candy factory. Now, you were just mentioning that, I'm sure this people out there who know can picture it instantly. Um, in the in the show, there's these little chocolate candies coming down a conveyor belt, and they have to pick them. They had to pick them out from the belt, and they're kind of failing miserably at that. They're coming too fast. They can't keep up with them, so Lucy starts panicking, and she starts eating a bunch and shoving them down her shirt, and it just is one of the great examples of physical comedy ever in TV history. It's one of the most famous sitcom scenes of all time. Another very famous scene, it was probably my favorite, that I remember watching this when I would watch Nick at Night as a kid. Uh, it was the Vitamita Benjamin, where Lucy gets cast in a commercial to tout this this health substance called Vitamina Benjamin, and she has to do the commercial, and she's tasting it, but it tastes disgusting. And even though we're just watching this, and we as the viewer don't know, like just her facial expressions, can really like convey it, and and watching it, the audience can see, can kind of feel the awfulness of it. It could like elicit some, painful memories to anyone watching it. So, it's and as she keeps drinking it, because she has to redo the takes, because every time she takes a bit, she makes this sour puss face, and it's just very funny, and there's great facial expressions. And after a while, the stuff starts like having an effect on her, and she's acting almost drunk even, and she's like slurring her words and messing up and saying the wrong thing, and it's just very funny. In fact, this was such a famous scene that there was actually a commemorative Barbie doll for it. I remember my sister had it in her Barbie collection with her, with her with the get up, with the Barbie doll with the get up from this scene. So, as are just some, great great examples of the. It was very funny stuff. It's there are some instances where the show may have been product of its time a little. Like I mentioned in my last video, I talked about Three's Company and how some premise of that. I wouldn't really call it like problematic or anything. There are some instances where maybe how Ricky treated Lucy really wasn't the best. Can cause some eye rolls here and there or something, but that it really does hold up incredibly well. Some other ones. There was actually when Lucille Ball was pregnant in real life, they actually wrote it in to the show and had her giving birth to a baby, their her son, Little Ricky, and he and as she and but the network had standards, and that she couldn't they couldn't say the word pregnant. What seems crazy, like nowadays watching TV, like why is that a bad word? But at the time, that was they were so straight laced that the word pregnant was a dirty word. It seems ridiculous, but that's kind of how it was. So it was like with they'd say like expecting or with child or something like that. So it's so very interesting how television has grown and adapted and all these different things. And so but other than that, still very funny show, still holds up. It's hard for shows, from way back when that, can still hold up over time. And even, me as a fan of classic TV shows and movies, there are some instances where I can, look at and roll my eyes at some things, and I'm sure years from now we'll look back on TV shows of the current day and roll our eyes at. So it's just interesting if things grow. Um, but overall it was very funny and a great chemistry, which in reality, it was kind of surprising the chemistry between the characters because, as many of you know, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz wound up getting divorced in real life. So it's just a few years after the show ended, so it was tumultuous times. And also, William Fowler and Vivian Vance, who played the Mertzes, they, famously did not get along and couldn't stand each and they couldn't stand each other, and so it was fun. It's interesting how these cast members were able to put aside their differences and make a very entertaining show. So that's it. I just wanted to highlight this classic show. So thank you to my friend Corey who gave me this suggestion. As always, I'm always open to suggestions and comment here, or I'm sure I'll be posting this on Facebook too. So comment there, wherever. Give my videos a like if you like it, or subscribe if you really like it. Those are the works, as I like to say here. And I guess until next time, take it easy.